Welcome to Alchemize Yourself Tarot. Right now, you may be seeking conflict resolution with somebody that you have had a falling out or a painful ending with. And one thing you've been holding on to is you may feel like you're always the one to resolve conflict. You may always feel like the conflict originates and ends with you, like it's always your problem. And the only way to receive validation from the other person or get back into good standing with them is to be the bigger person and mend the bridge with them. So right now you could be, resisting this temptation to be the one to reach out, to be the bigger person, to mend any conflict that you have with them. But the problem with this is this weight originated from a wound of guilt and pain from being the one to end things that are weighing you down. So underneath all this conflict, the underlying wound is that you had to confront somebody. You had to say something about the way they were treating you. It was causing you pain. But then you feel guilty for bringing that up or causing conflict. You don't want to be the one to, cause any trouble in the relationship. But the problem with always being in this is that you're the one having to just suck up the conflict or deal with it and then resolve it. And it takes accountability and responsibility away from the other person. So when you take on this weight of feeling responsible for why this ended, it could be very well that both of you have responsibility in why something ended with the Ten of Swords. But you're the one carrying the burden. And it doesn't bring you any sort of peace or resolution when it comes to them changing their behavior. Because you can't control the other person's behavior. You can only control how you handle yourself. So you can't force this person to take accountability. And that's a difficult lesson to integrate, is that you can only have responsibility for yourself. You can't force the other person to see your point of view, or you can't force the other person to want resolution. Sometimes you have to allow something to end, right? Ten of Swords, Eight of Cups, Six of Swords. You have to give yourself closure. And if you go in to fix things, this is a problem. If you go in to fix everything or resolve or stop something from ending, then it just basically relinquishes their accountability. You're basically taking on the full weight of and responsibility of whatever caused that falling out. So then they don't have any reason to change their behavior, right? There's a needed change. Possibly both of you need a change in this situation. You may be dealing, especially if this is a relationship, you both probably have issues that you need to resolve, and unhealed wounds and pain and reasons that you're in conflict with one another. But the problem with you trying to get validation through resolving it is that they don't have to, fix their part in things. So basically, the only way you can have resolution is to grow, change, and get better. You have to be willing to peacefully walk away. Six of Swords, Eight of Cups. A lot of times these cards come out together. You have to be willing to walk away if this person is not willing to compromise or work with you, or come up with a solution. And you need to focus on your own growth and building a foundation with people that are willing to work with you, people that are aligned with, you know, the future that you're wanting to create with yourself. Many of you are realizing that this person was not actually helping you with your growth. It doesn't mean that you're vilifying a particular person. You're just realizing that it can end up stagnating your growth and your evolution as a person if you're constantly having to fix things or explain things or rehash things. There's a reason something ended here. And while it might be painful right now, I feel like in the long run, it's going to bring you more peace and growth. Because they can either choose to meet you or move on, but you now know that the conflict resolution, it's not supposed to be one-sided. If you're the only one trying to hold the relationship together or get somebody to understand or take responsibility, you have to understand that that's a one-sided relationship. And you don't need to validate yourself by being the bigger person all the time. And you can't fear walking away from that unwillingness to compromise or work together. So that's what I'm seeing here, is that, you know, you may have had maybe a difficult, painful falling out, an argument with somebody, or just a disagreement in the terms of your relationship, what you thought it was. Or, you know, usually Five of Wands comes when there's a difference in expectations for the relationship. You want one thing, they want another, and it, you know, it causes friction. And it's painful because you really care about the person. You want to work things out with them. But then on the other hand, you can't, you know, abandon your self-respect. At a certain point, you're like, okay, I know there are things that I need to change. This is where I'm at, but I'm willing to walk away and move on if we're not on the same page. I think this is where you're at right now. You know, there certainly, like I said before, you don't have to vilify somebody. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they are not compatible with what you are trying to build in a relationship or what you're wanting to do for your own personal growth. It can actually block you in a lot of ways, trying to seek validation from them at this time. So what was this Five of Wands in regards to? Yeah, it was about commitment, whether or not this person wanted to take something to the next level. And usually in the beginnings of a relationship, or as a relationship progresses, if somebody's not willing to make an offer of commitment or take something to the next level, there's going to be tension, right? There's going to be a power dynamic that plays out because one person, you know, may want their, you know, freedom. They don't want to settle down, or they want to keep their options open. So you definitely had a falling out over whether or not someone was ready to commit or take something to the next level or make something official, right? And the thing with this for you guys is you don't want to have to fight someone over whether or not they want to be with you. At the end of the day, if you're constantly, you know, arguing or in tension over whether or not someone chooses you, you have to be willing to walk away. You know, that's where you maintain your self-respect. If you don't want the same things, you know, you have to be willing to end it. And it may be painful to walk away from this person. You may feel like you're having to start all over again. Many of you, you know, it's painful having to go through these cycles where you go into a relationship with a certain expectation and it doesn't end up being what you expect. But we can't force that. And many of you are realizing that. You know, you're not ultimately going to get the validation of a commitment, someone committing to you, if you had to force it, right? If it wasn't something that they willingly wanted to do anyway. That's the way you have to look at it, that this is not something that they want to do or build with you. Many of you realize that. You're realizing, hey, if I have to fight you for it, this isn't right. And the wound is, yeah, you felt like someone was trying to keep their options open, and you really love this person. You really felt like this could be a soulmate, like a really genuine, you came into the connection wanting genuine love, and this other person behind the scenes, they wanted to keep their options open. They still wanted to date. They didn't have any long-term intentions. And that was very painful, but you got the data, you got the information you needed. So that's the way you have to look at it, because you don't want to waste time over here. If someone's not ready, if they want to, keep their options open and this and that, you don't want to be over here exerting all your energy trying to make something work with this person. You have to be willing to make that needed change to move on. That's where you're going to find peace. The validation, it's not going to force this person to be a soulmate, a spiritual connection, a life partner. You can't force somebody into that narrative and that role. We are evolving out of that. This spiritual community, you guys know, it doesn't matter how much you label or identify somebody as a soulmate or a spiritual connection. If they don't want that connection, you have to be willing to walk away and let that person go. Because you're not going to find this expending all that energy. But there's something that you're wanting to do. Three of Wands is about notable growth. It's about making plans, looking at your long-term goals, your future, looking towards the future. And now is not the right time for a relationship conflict, right? You don't want to be caught up. You have goals, you have ambitions. You don't want to be caught up dealing with somebody that's not sure about you, because that's going to just distract you. And that's their prerogative, right? If they want to do that, they've got to go do that. You don't have time. Somebody will waste your time if you allow it. If you go in to resolve that conflict, what's going to happen? You're just going to end up wasting your time. And the new source of confidence is building something with substance. Three of Coins is earth. Whatever you're studying, whatever you're creating, this is something with substance. This is something that has long-term potential, not just drama and conflict. So yeah, side piece. Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't want to just be a side piece, a secret hookup. That's not going to bring you any sort of confidence, knowing that you're just one of many options. Somebody flirting with somebody else, being sneaky, that's on them. That's their life. That's not meant to interfere. And it's like, you don't want to be stuck in the past. You don't want to be stuck in something that's you can't really do anything about. We can't change the past. We can only look towards our future and not get caught up in, these past cycles. I'm getting that this was a past pattern, a repeated pattern, something that you've experienced before in relationships. So that can be really triggering to that's where the needed change needs to come. It's like you've dealt with this before and you tried to fight for it or you tried to resolve it, but you can't make somebody love you. You can't make someone want you. And you're learning that is not a good pattern, because you're not going to find proposals and long-term commitments by wasting your time with that. Yeah, you're seeing the truth. Shedding light. You're having to, in confession, this is you needing to confess to yourself what you really want and whether or not this person is capable of doing that. So it doesn't matter what you try to do to resolve that validation, trying to prove yourself, prove your worth. I mean, you can waste years with somebody trying to get them to convince them of your worth or value, but then they just don't see you as that. Let's see. What is the spiritual message? Let's get another spiritual message. Thought patterns. Get out of your head and into your heart. This is the truth. So I'm getting both. You need to use your head and your heart. Maybe you need to get out of your emotions a little bit and back into your head. You need to but you do need to think about thought patterns. Everything is a pattern, especially if you tend to seek resolution with things that you actually just need to let go of. That's when that's when your Queen of Swords energy or King of Swords energy really protects you. Because you're not just, being emotionally reactive to how someone's making you feel or what you expected or wanted out of that person. And sacred space, time out, clear your energy. Space brings clarity. Yeah, like you're not gonna, if you try to close the gap, it's not gonna give that person the space needed to even see your point of view, right? Sacred spaces, people need space to see the truth about what they want. You need that space. The other person needs that space. You're not going to get any validation or clarity by, forcing the issue. So I'm going to close it out there. I really hope this reading helped you. I really hope you like, share, and subscribe. And bye.